Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believe in a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing. From the city of Los Angeles in Los Angeles, I should say from the city of Angels in Los Angeles, and normally also from the Big Apple in New York City. Welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver, caregiverdave.com, along with my lovely co-host, but not here today because Adrienne was having a rough day and she could not make it today. But we miss her, and I know she'll be doing well, and she might even join us a little later on. We'll see. And we're coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on 25, no, there's more like 30 now, global audio and video platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Facebook Live, SoundCloud, Blog Talk Radio, and about 25. Excuse me, burping on the air. Oh, my gosh, that is got to be breaking some kind of rules. Anyway, I'm just going to leave that in there. I'm not going to edit that out because this is real TV, real radio, I should say. Anyway, we've got all these platforms, and we are very proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast of the top 50, count them 50 on Player FM, and one of the top 6 best podcasts by caring.com, as well as #3 podcast out of thousands of caregiver podcasts on FeedSpot. Now, we have an exciting show planned for you today. I would normally say, don't we, Adrienne? And she would say, yes, we do. But I miss Adrienne. She's just not here. And our guest today is Linda Byce. And Linda was a caregiver to her husband for a few years.
11 years and 3 months.
11 years and 3 months?
Yes.
And then he went and passed on, and Linda found herself not a caregiver anymore. And that's a tough place to be for a lot of people. Some people would be happy to get the freedom and so on, and some people go into depression because they don't know what else to do because they weren't healthy in their caregiving. They would just give and give and give until there was nothing left to give. They would burn out. Their whole identity was wrapped up in their caregiving duties. They would have isolated themselves so that all their friends kind of deserted them because all they did was complain about the terrible day they had or whatever, and nobody wants to be around Debbie Downers, so they just stopped calling, stopped coming by. And all of a sudden, you find yourself isolated. But it doesn't have to be that way, folks. And Linda Byce is the perfect example, whether she agrees with me or not, because I'm outside looking in, and, we are our own worst self-critic. But I think she's doing an amazing job. She was doing an amazing job of caregiving, and we'll get more into that story, which will show you what an angel this person is. But afterwards, she went on living her life. Of course she grieved the passing of her husband. But when a spouse or a loved one has a terminal illness or a very, very debilitating illness where their quality of life is gone, we've already kind of grieved that. That anticipatory grief turns into a real grief. And then when the person does pass on, a lot of people will say that, well, I knew it was going to happen, but I never expected it to happen, and I never expected me to react this way, And so a lot of mixed emotions, but we'll get into that. It sounds like I'm doing the interview for her. Before we get started, I do want to thank our last week's guest, born and raised in California, and it was Stephanie Erickson. And she was an author, still is an author actually, Plan for Aging Well. And that interview and all our interviews are on my Caregiver Dave membership website, as well as all those other not membership, but all those other platforms that I mentioned earlier. So, enough of that. Let us get right to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Linda.
It's always an honor.
I had to think of your name there for a minute. You know you're getting old. And you can't remember what you just said 3 seconds ago.
Oh, do I know that feeling?
Oh, you're not older than me, are you?
I just turned 62, so
You're catching up. Anyway, I like to ask my guests, as you know, because you've co-hosted with me many times, just who is Linda Byce, and why was she placed on this earth?
Well, I have always been creative. I've always had a passion for helping others, and I've always loved to teach. And little did I know that those things were preparing me for all the years of caring for my husband. But we were married in 1991, and 15 years into our marriage, if it's okay for me to go ahead and tell give a brief story.
We'll get to that. I basically wanted to know not what you do, but who are you inside? Who is Linda Byce? You know, what makes her tick? You know what I mean? Then we'll get into your details and some of the things that prove who you are.
Well, first and most important, I am a Christian, and I live to serve God, and I give Him every day, and for Him to lead me, guide me, and direct me. And for me, we're on this earth for two reasons, and that's to serve God and to help others. I love the beach. I passionately love the beach, as all of my friends know, and I'm totally obsessed with sea turtles. So, as a matter of fact, I spent 3 months last year on South Padre Island volunteering at the Sea Turtle Hospital, which was on my bucket list. And,
I have a new appreciation for sea turtles because I've just recently been seeing them wherever I go, and they're amazing creatures. How they can swim and do all and they come in tiny, tiny little sizes to huge. They're amazing. And I understand some of them have been around for 100 years. Is that true?
I know, yeah. Average age, well, anywhere from 40 to 100 years. And yeah, they're absolutely
so far, everything
amazing.
you like, I like, so we're very compatible.
But yeah, that's me. You know, that's
you. And you're as cute as a button. You were a model in younger years, right?
Many moons ago, yeah. In the 70s, 80s, 90s.
But you've taken care of yourself. I mean, you haven't let yourself go. You still could model anything, you know, for the respective age group that you're in. Because, you know, my wife gets all these catalogs, you know, clothing and tons, and she's on everybody's mailing list. And, you know, there's kids, there's older adults, there's grandparents. They're all models, you know. So
and with the baby
maybe you
boomers,
can go back into the modeling business as a backup, unless you hate it by now.
No, you know what? I used to say, I get to do this and I get paid too. So, yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was fun. It was really fun. Even getting up at 2 o'clock to be on, you know, to be on location at sunrise, you know, I still didn't complain.
Sometimes I had to get up at 2 o'clock to make that phone call to get on that television show at 6 a.m.
Oh, yeah. So you know. But,
I'd like to get into your story, but you're in South Carolina now, right?
Right.
Myrtle Beach.
North
There was a famous
Myrtle Beach.
movie about Myrtle Beach, wasn't there? I know you're in North Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
It had to do, I'm trying to remember what it was about, but it's a famous one. It's an old one. Memoirs of Myrtle Beach or something like that. Am I getting it wrong?
I don't know. Well, you know, the
Brighton Beach. It's probably Brighton Beach.
Too. Yeah.
But Myrtle Beach is famous too.
Right, yeah. Well, North Myrtle is famous for the dance, the shag, and they have huge conventions twice a year for that. And
did you originally come from the South? You have an accent,
yes.
So you must have originally come from the South.
I know. Do you know that when I was modeling, back when I first started modeling, I took 3 years of voice training to get rid of this Southern accent. And
but
back
they're so
then,
charming.
people thought I was from California because my accent was gone. And through the years, it came back.
So what state were you from?
Still South Carolina. Yep. I was born in
went
Upper
back
South
home,
Carolina.
huh?
I did. I really did.
And you love it, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm closer to family, and especially, I've got the 2 brain tumors, and at any moment I can go blind. And
oh my!
Yeah. Seriously, at any moment.
One eye or 2 eyes?
Both eyes will, go blind.
Boy, talk about trusting God and living moment by moment, and not worrying about tomorrow, for tomorrow has its own worries. You're living the gospel, aren't you?
Amen. And my, my son and I talked about, if it happens while I'm driving, what I should do, and he's got my phone set up where he can absolutely track me anywhere. As a matter of fact, this past, the 3rd, was it Saturday before last, was my 67th birthday, and my son and his girlfriend drove the 4.5 hours to the coast here and literally tracked me down at Walmart buying groceries. So it really works. So you can find me anywhere.
It really works. It's amazing. So you are really an amazing person. I don't want to embarrass you or make you blush. I know you called in, so we can't really see you.
I know, right? But, you can't see me.
I've got your picture somewhere, but I'll try to get it up maybe during the break or something. But I want you to tell the story that is the most amazing part of you that I know. And it's kind of personal, but I know you don't mind sharing your personal story with the world if it'll help someone, right?
Right. That's what we go through these days.
Well, I want you to tell the story of how you met your husband and, how you got married and how you got divorced, if you got divorced or separated or whatever it was, and how you got back together again. That is a pretty powerful story, and I think it talks a lot about your character. Go ahead.
We were separated for 3 months. We met through a blind date, and it was so funny because I would not go on this blind date by myself, so there ended up being 5 couples going on our first date with us.
Wow, talk about chaperones, huh?
I know, right?
In the South.
And I'll never forget, he after we ate and we're all sitting around there talking, and he looked at me and he said, "There's something I want to tell you about myself." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I was born in Rome and I went to school in Paris." And I was like, "Wow, that's pretty neat." He said, "Yeah, I was born in Rome, Georgia, and I went to Paris Elementary School."
Oh, you had me going on that one.
I know, right?
What a line, huh?
So anyway, it was, and I was always, I was modeling back then, and I was always dressed to the T. Okay, so our first day, he was all dressed in, nice black slacks and a white dress shirt, and drove this really nice car. Well, when he came to pick me up for our second date, I looked out the peephole and I was like, "Who in the world is that?" Because he had on a flannel shirt, blue jeans, and was driving a pickup truck. So it was kind of like Cinderella, but with the male. He borrowed his brother's car and his brother's dress shirt, and I think he had his own black pants. But it was so funny. I opened the door, and I'm dressed to the T in heels and all, and I was like, "I don't think I'm dressed for the occasion." He goes, "No, you look fine." But needless to say, we fell in love, and we were married October the 6th, 2000. Never mind, 19. I want to say 2000. October the 6th, 1991, and that just happened to be my parents' anniversary. So it was really neat to be. We always, we had our anniversaries on the same day.
Oh.
But 15 years, in 1993, we had our son Trammell, and absolutely an amazing. I can't say how blessed I am to have a son like him, and I don't even know what I would have done without him. But he is absolutely amazing. He is our family's hero. But then 15 years into our marriage, he had not been faithful all the time, and I wanted to believe that everything would be okay, And it
Denial.
got to where, yeah. And I had friends telling me, Linda, this is not right. This is really abuse. There were things like my appendix ruptured and I had gangrene because he would not take me to the emergency room because it was raining. Just things like that. And so 15 years into our marriage, on Christmas morning, well, no, let me back up. On March 25th, 2006, that was 15 years into the marriage, he had a massive heart attack, and which is a miracle that he survived. And he was in the hospital 11 days, had to have open heart surgery, quadruple bypass. And, of course, we brought him home, and he did great. As a matter of fact, he started walking and exercising. We started eating right, which I had begged him for years, and smoke. He had smoked his whole life, and he stopped smoking. And so, he was doing good, and then a couple of months after he got back to work, he turned into the same person that he was. And things just got so bad that Trammell and I packed up one day while he was at work, and we went to Charleston. And I found a place, and we stayed there for 3 months. As a matter of fact, David and I got closer then than we had been in years, because you remember the Nextel walkie-talkies?
Yeah.
We had those, and he and I spoke all the time. Having conversations that we had not had in years. And the awesome thing is he grew closer to our pastor, and he accepted Christ, and he was literally becoming a changed man. And this is all while Trammell and I were gone. So in December, he kept saying, I want you to come home for Christmas because I want to show you the person I've become now, how I've changed. So we agreed, and we were all excited because to get to, be at home for Christmas was really important. And it was thrilling for Trammell, of course, because, any child hates to see their parents going through this sort of thing. And so the awesome thing was, I think Christmas Eve was on Sunday, and we went to church, and one of these blessings that you look back and say, man, that was just so awesome that happened. We usually... it was Mountain Creek Baptist Church, and we would usually have communion where each person would sit, at their own seat. Well, this time they wanted to do it differently, and each family walked to the front and had communion as a family. And it was so precious, that we did that. Little did we know what that night was going to bring. So we went home, of course, and David cooked. David was an amazing cook, and Trammell inherited that. He did not get it from me at all, but Trammell is like a chef, and that's the way his dad was. They're amazing. So David cooked all day. He cooked the turkey and dressing and all the trimmings, so for us to have the next day. And that night at 9 o'clock, we all went to bed. And about 2 o'clock that morning, I always say it was God that woke me up because I literally just sat up in bed all of a sudden. And I always slept with night lights, which is ironic that I always have lights on, seeing that I could go completely blind at any moment. But so I always had lights on. And I looked over at him, and his eyes were wide open, and his mouth was open. And of course, I had no idea what was going on. And all of a sudden, his whole body started to shake. Well, at this point, I'm already reaching over him, hitting speakerphone 911 on the phone. Mm-hmm. And about that time, by this time, I'm giving the 911 worker our address and all this. And I said, something's wrong with my husband. He had a massive heart attack. It was 9 months ago, and so I'm spitting out all this information, and then all of a sudden everything stops, and I just started screaming, he's gone, he's gone, he's gone. And as I am saying that, I'm literally crawling over him, jerking his pillow out from under him, and starting CPR immediately. Now, that was God that took over.
Did you skip a small little part about when you broke up, and then he begged the forgiveness, and then how long was it after you went back with him that this occurred again?
Yeah, we left. Trammell and I left the end of October, and this was Christmas, so it was a little over 2 months. Well, around 2 months, because it was the end of October when we left, and it was the week of Christmas when we came back.
Wow. So many. First of all, you're amazing in unforgiveness. They say that unforgiveness is like drinking poison, hope the other person dies.
That's
and
exactly
yet,
right.
You'd be surprised how many ex-spouses of caregivers go back to their ex after they become disabled and are now their caregiver. And, they can't stand each other, they can't live with each other, but apparently there's enough love there to go back to them and care for them. But you actually went back to him before this, and then this happened. And, go ahead.
I was going to say a precious moment that happened that day, too, or the day before Christmas Eve. I was in the kitchen, and David said, "Come here a minute," and I went in there, and he reached in his pocket, and he had this beautiful cross ring that he had made, and he said, I'm giving you this with a promise that I will be the husband and the father that you and Trammell deserve from now on. So
and that did it for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was, I can't even describe that. It's bringing tears to my eyes. It was like, what a gift, what a gift. Not the material, but the promise.
Sure.
That was an amazing Christmas gift.
I'm showing all these pictures on your Facebook page of David and you, and here's one where you're wiping his face and he's kind of snarling at you. And...
Oh, he hated to get his face washed. You know how kids hate to get their face washed, and that's exactly the way he was. It was so cute.
So he's like a child, right? Tell me all the things that he cannot do after this happened.
All right. So by the time the ambulance got there and they got him to the hospital and got him hooked on to life support, he had actually been down 1 hour and 20 minutes. The EMS guys, the guys from the fire department who knew us, they knew David, and they thought he was gone. I mean, they were not even working on him at that point, right? So the doctor had ordered the team to come down and hook him up to life support, and we found out later that the team took 45 minutes to get down there. So he had been gone all that time. Well, 4 days later, when they turned the life support off, he began to breathe, which was amazing. So they hooked it back up and weaned him off over the next few days. Because of that time that he was dead, he had severe brain damage. He was like an infant. He lost all memory back to the 70s. He had no short-term memory whatsoever, about 10, 15 minutes at the most. And he was in diapers. We gave him a baby bottle to drink out of, and
color and stuff.
Yeah, as I always put it, God took my husband, but gave me a precious 6-foot baby boy. And he thought I was his mommy. And what was really neat and remarkable is and this went on for 11 years and 3 months. Every 6 to 8 weeks, he went from an infant to about a preteen, and then one morning he would wake back up, and he would be an infant again. And over that period of those 6 to 8 weeks, he would go into different stages, and I knew exactly what stage he was in. I had toys and activities, for each stage that he was in. And I mean, and it sounds weird to say when you're talking about your husband, but my favorite stage when that was going on was like 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, because that's when he was excited about doing crafts and popcorn movie time and all this stuff. I I made this wheel, which I divided up and had all the different activities that he loved to do, or that that I would have, what was it, Bible story time, popcorn movie time, arts and craft time, going outside, all these different activities. And I would, Play-Doh, he loves playing with Play-Doh, and all these different activities. School time, I had school with him every day. But I would let him pick out which activity, because he couldn't tell me. He didn't know to have a conversation or to say,
no language.
I want to do this or I want to do that. He could talk, but he didn't, whatever that is in our brain that enables us to have a conversation or to ask for what we need. He couldn't tell me if he was in pain or if he was hungry or if his diaper was wet or any, he didn't know how to do that. So I made that wheel, and he would point, he'd put the little arrow to what he wanted to do next. But, it was, and the night times, oh my goodness, I didn't sleep. It was very rare for me to sleep more than a couple of hours at night, because I was up and down every other hour to check and make sure that he wasn't wet or
diapers too, huh?
Yeah. Oh, and he was in the baby diaper shop.
Even when he was into the preteen, the diaper?
Right, yeah. See, that was one thing that was continued, yeah. He never did, he couldn't potty train him, because if you tried in 10 to 15 minutes, that was erased.
How many times did he cycle through the baby to the preteen?
Oh, we're talking every 8 to 6 weeks for 11 years and 3 months.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's like that movie with...
51st Dates.
51st Dates, 10-second Tom.
Yeah, that was, yeah. And you know what? We used to watch that movie all the time, and I used to say, little did I know that was my training film. I had no idea, except, of course, David was much worse than she, because, she was able to function, but yeah,
I know there's some people listening to this and are just in shock and unbelief. We're going to take a short break, and when we get back, I want you to talk about, we talked about all the positive things from this and all the cute things and but I want to talk about all the hard things and the things that you would cry yourself to sleep with at night and stuff like that. If there was any, which I think there probably had to be. You're a caregiver.
There was. I didn't cry, but there was tons. Yeah, nightmares.
So we will be right back. Don't go away. Dave Nassaney, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too, Thrive to Stay Alive as a Caregiver. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. He now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his amazing caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too, Thrive and Stay Alive as a Caregiver will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver, on sale everywhere and at caregiverdave.com. And we're back with Linda Byce on the Caregiver Dave Show. I'm Caregiver Dave, Dave Nassaney, caregiverdave.com. And we were just talking about all of the fun things about caring for Linda's infant baby husband, to put it the only way I know how. And, there's lots of positive things about it and lots of good times and good memories. But I asked her to think about all of the hard times, the times she cried herself to sleep. I'm sure there were some of those, weren't there, Linda?
Well, I never cried. This is so weird. When things happen to me, I for some reason I don't cry. I cry at Hallmark movies, and I cry when I see others in pain. I broke down a couple of times, but I always handed everything over to God. And every time something horrible happened, which there were plenty of times, number one, I would hit my knees and give it to God, and I knew that there was a reason for everything, that God was working on something. Every time, what I would say, every time the devil would mean things for harm, God always took them and turned them into these amazing blessings or this absolute miracle. So that happened time and time again. But so many times, David would go through, and it was always at night, what we called psychotic episodes. Now, when David had no idea that he could get out of the bed, as in if the house was on fire, he wouldn't know to get up and go. He, just like an infant, he would wait for me to come and get him and get him up, right? So when he went through these psychotic episodes, the first thing he would do was get out of bed. And so my son actually fixed a monitoring system to where even when I was in my bed, in my bedroom, I could keep an eye on him. Wake up all during the night. When I did, I was up and down anyway, but all I had to do was wake up and I would see the monitor. Well, I would wake up, look at the monitor, and the bed would be empty. Of course, my feet hit the floor and I'm flying to his room. And normally he would be wandering around. Bless his heart, his diaper would usually be wet during that time too. He would be. I remember he would be holding his diaper, wandering around just like a toddler would be, and he was always looking for his late brother. His brother, he had a brother that was murdered in the 70s. Yeah, he was a year older.
Some memory.
Yeah, see, that was in the 70s. He lost all memory back to the 70s. So anything that was in the 70s or earlier, he remembered. And see, when he would go through the psychotic episodes, he thought he was in the 70s. He thought he was a little boy and that he was always looking for his brother because his brother and him shared a bedroom when they were growing up. So he couldn't understand why his brother wasn't in there. So every time he had a psychotic episode, that is what would happen. He would be hunting his brother. And he was also terrified because it was like he didn't know me during these episodes. And here I am trying to get him to come back to bed. And he was literally like a terrified child. He would go to the front door we had a special lock on the front door because he would try to get out. And he kept saying, I just want to go home. I want to go home. And because, his home was his childhood home.
So he could actually talk then?
Yeah. And that was, it was a completely different him when he was having a psychotic episode. He was literally like normal, like a child. I always guessed like a 5, 6, or 7-year-old is what I gathered.
But when he was a preteen, he couldn't talk, right?
No. Now, see, that's when you're going with the preteen and all that. That's when he's going through the age groups. But when he was in the psychotic episode, you're talking about a whole other thing. So, yeah. And
what hope did doctors give you for his prognosis? Is it just going to be like that the rest of his life?
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, when we brought him home, oh my goodness, they never thought he would live, more than 6 months to a year. And he lived 11 years and 3 months. But
what did he finally die of?
A cardiac arrest. As a matter of fact, I spoke at his memorial. Trammell and I stood up there and I said, God ended it as quickly as he began this journey. It started with cardiac arrest on Christmas morning 2006, and it ended with cardiac arrest on April the 9th, 2018. Was
he overweight before that?
No. See, that's what was wild. Never been overweight. To look at him, he was the picture of health. It blew everybody's mind when he had his first heart attack. But yeah, he's it was a Tuesday afternoon, and he went into cardiac arrest and was gone. And that I'll tell you the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen. Of course, we're dialing 911, and this is when he passed away in April of 2018. I'm on the phone with 911. Trammell I started with doing CPR, and then Trammell took over, and the doorbell's ringing. I'm running to the door to bring the first of the many EMS and police and all that. You know how when you call 911, everybody comes. So I ran to the door, and as I'm bringing the guy down the hall, there's Trammell standing over his dad, doing CPR with all his might, trying to bring him back. And that. How
old was Trammell?
Let's see, Trammell was 13 when it happened to begin with, and 25 when his dad passed away. And he was working with all his might trying to save his dad. You know, I said that was heartbreaking. It was Trammell is our hero. Like I said, he's our family's hero. But he was a hero. But that was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen. Him trying to save his dad.
So let's talk about Trammell. How did he handle all of this and the 11 years of that and growing up? And is he scarred by it? What does he carry forward into life from that experience?
To make things worse for Trammell, for Trammell and me, but mostly for Trammell, a year and a month after that happened to his dad, Trammell himself was paralyzed from the waist down due to a rare virus called acute transverse myelitis. Super Bowl Sunday of '08, about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, he came in the house, the condo. We had moved down to Charleston. I had moved us down to Charleston trying to get near MUSC for David. Little did I ever dream in a million years that Trammell would be the one ended up in MUSC.
My alma mater, by the way.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yep. 76 business.
Wow. That's so cool. But it was Super Bowl Sunday of '08. Trammell came in, ran upstairs, and he was getting his game room cleaned up because he had some buddies coming over to watch the Super Bowl. Well, I am changing David's diaper in the next room. And about the time I'm almost halfway through changing his diaper, I hear Trammell yell, and he's like, "Mom!" And I said, "What is it?" And he goes, "My back." And I said, "Did you hurt it?" And he's, we're hollering back and forth, and he said, "No, it just hurts." And I said, "Well, hang on a minute, and I'll get you some Tylenol." Never dreaming in a million years what was happening to that child. So I get through with the diaper, and I'm walking through the bedroom door, and now Trammell is in the hallway, in the floor, and he's saying, "I can't feel my legs. Can't feel my legs." And
wow.
I know. So
just one thing after another, huh?
Yeah. Oh, are you kidding? Yeah. So got him to hospital. They immediately called the ambulance and sent him to MUSC, and where he was diagnosed. And we spent a couple of weeks there, and they sent him home in a wheelchair, saying, "This is it. You're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life."
Love the way they diagnose these patients, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, I was like, I'm a mom, so no, this is not it, right? And I got a hold of Shriners in Philadelphia, Shriners in Greenville, where I was a volunteer there for years, and they said that there was nothing that could be done. So they got me in touch with Shriners in Philadelphia. Now, keep in mind that I'm also taking care of David during all of this, too. And so I got a hold of Shriners in Philadelphia, and they flew all three of us to the Spine Hospital in Philadelphia. Wow. We were there all in one hospital room together. Right? Right, at no cost. Oh, my goodness, yeah. And
those commercials are correct then, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I cannot tell you or thank Shriners enough. They're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. As a matter of fact, we were in that hospital room for a month. And see, when you're paralyzed, people don't think, nothing functions anymore. You have to cath, and there is, and your bowels, don't work properly. And so I am, talking to different people in and out of the room, and I keep saying that we're praying for recovery. He's going to walk again. I know he's going to walk again. We're praying for recovery. So one day this nurse pulls me to the side, and she goes, "Miss Byce, you have got to stop giving your son false hope. He will not walk again. You've got to accept that. He's going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And I can't remember what I said something to her, but it was along the lines of, you don't know our God. And the awesome, amazing thing was the week before we left there, Trammell became, as a matter of fact, he made hospital history, becoming the first acute transverse myelitis patient they had ever had to be able to stand and take a step. And they put him in the medical journals. They took pictures. They took him down to the front of the hospital and took pictures. And, I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. They brought doctors and nurses and students in there. And for every group that they brought in, they let me talk. And I got to give our testimony, our story to all of those people. And Trammell said, and this brings tears to my eyes, Trammell told me, he said, Mom, if just one person gets saved, it was worth going through all this. And you don't know how many people walked out of that room with tears in their eyes.
And today Trammell can walk with no limp?
Yes. Well, he still can't feel his legs or feet, right?
Really?
And that's why it's still amazing. Yeah, he's literally a walking miracle. And he's got braces from the knees down. He just had to have another surgery last year because one foot is drop foot, but the other one is spastic, and it was literally turning all the way around. And so they went in and cut all the ligaments and tendons, all the tendons, so the foot would fit down into the brace. So
does he wear a brace or no more?
Yeah, no, he has to wear braces. He wears braces on both legs. But he's walking just as good as I am. So, but yeah, it took him. He was still in the wheelchair for 3 years, and he went from wheelchair to a walker to Canadian crutches to a walking cane, and then I guess it's been about 5 years ago. He said, "You know what, Mom? I don't think I need this cane." So, and you know, he falls. He still, you know, he falls a lot, but he never gives up. And he's continuously getting wounds on the bottom of his feet because there's no circulation, you know. And
And what's the reason all this happened again?
Because a virus called acute transverse myelitis. It is so rare, it's only 1 in a million that
not contagious.
Get it, and they don't. No,
and they don't know how he got it.
Nope, no idea how you get it, and there's really no cure. So he is, you know, he is a miracle. And it can strike.
It's true. All of our tomorrows are just not guaranteed. You better enjoy today. And
that's exactly right.
I don't think you could have made it. We haven't even gotten to the rest of the stuff that's happened to you. But I don't think you could have made it without your faith in God.
I know. I know I couldn't. There's no way.
And people will come up to you and they'll you know, poo-poo. Oh yeah, isn't that cute? Isn't that sweet? Yes, she believes in God. Yeah, but you know what? I dare them to have to go through what you have went through and not have God.
There is no way. I cannot.
It's not just a crutch, is it? I mean, He actually comes through with miracles and provision.
Oh, you would not believe. I mean, everything from. I lay down in bed one night and I thought, oh my goodness, I forgot to make tea. And I was so tired, I didn't want to get up and make anymore, or make it, okay? Because we always kept tea, you know, in the refrigerator. We're a Southern family. So I laid down, and the doorbell rang. And I was like, who in the world is coming to the house at 9 o'clock at night? And I went to the door, and I looked out, and there was our preacher's 2 daughters. I opened up the door, and guess what they handed me? Each one of them had a gallon of tea. One of them had a gallon of tea, and the kids behind them, they had a youth meeting at the church, and they brought us all the leftovers, the leftover sandwiches and 2 gallons of tea. So, I mean, everything from that to, when I was on South Padre Island last year, I'm driving from church back to the condo, and I'm thinking, Lord, I don't know how much more my car is going to take, because I had over 200,000 miles on it, right? And it, you know, I know that there's going to come a time and this car is not going to As a matter of fact, it's dead right now, but that car is. But within 48 hours, a friend of ours from Anderson called and said, I wanted to let you know I just bought a new car, and if you want mine, I'll sell it to you. And literally for less than half of what it was worth. Because I said, well, I don't have any money, to pay. And he said, well, I tell you what, whatever you can sell your car for, you can just pay me that. So, and this was like a car that's, 10 years newer than what I was driving. But, I mean, in everything, oh, my goodness, even I want to buy a condo down here. I've decided that I'm going to stay, in North Myrtle Beach. And within 24 hours, a lady contacted me and said, I will sell you, as a matter of fact, I know this lady. She is absolutely precious, and she is, she is an angel. She said, I'll sell you my condo, and better yet, I'll finance it for you if you like it.
Wow.
I know. And it's,
is it on the water? I see you on the water a lot.
Yes, it's across the street from the ocean, and it has a lake behind it. So,
ocean and a lake on both sides.
I know, right? It's a win-win. But
God is good.
It's like, and this has happened time and time and time again. Every need, diapers. Oh my goodness, thousands of dollars worth of diapers we went through, and we never ran out because even when I've gotten down to one diaper, the phone would ring and say, somebody would say, so-and-so has some diapers. The sad thing is that they always had them when somebody had passed away. But they would say, somebody has some diapers. Do you want them? I'm like, yes, I'm down to 2 diapers. I'm down to 1 diaper. But we never ran out. Never. In all those 11 years and 3 months, we never ran out of diapers.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You're using, how many a day are you using?
Oh, man. We went through between, 7 and 12 diapers a day.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it was.
Well, listen, we're going to take a break, and then I want to get into the, as the plot thickens and we get further into when you think things can't get worse, suddenly they get worse. So we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Our featured speaker is a best-selling author who has written numerous books and articles. He's a speaker, life coach, and host of Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program. He frequently appears on television and radio shows all across the country and has even shared the stage with Suzanne Summers at Harvard. But his most important role is caregiver to his beautiful wife Charlene for over 22 years. Please welcome Mr. Dave Nassaney!
I want to share with you a love story. In a couple of weeks, my wife and I will be celebrating 44 years of being together. My wife Charlene and I had a fairy tale, storybook, romance, courtship, and marriage for the first 21 years of our lives together. One day, out of nowhere, my wife has a headache, the headache of her life. She suffered a massive stroke, and it left her severely speech impaired and paralyzed on the right side. And in that moment, our world turned upside down. I got to tell you, the next 2 years was like a living hell. I just didn't know what to do. I felt guilty most of the time. I became a caregiver. I didn't even know what a caregiver was. I was experiencing the same problems that other caregivers experience.
If you don't take care of you, I can't take care of her.
Well, that's why I wrote the book. Now I can teach other caregivers. I'm living proof that you can thrive as a caregiver. My wife and I travel now all over the world sharing our story. One day, life is going to call upon you to be the captain of your boat. Heck, you might be saving your own life. Thank you.
And we're back with the Caregiver Dave Show. I'm Caregiver Dave. I'm Dave Nassaney at caregiverdave.com. And we're talking to Linda Byce. And Linda is not a caregiver anymore, after caregiver. She's graduated. And we're talking about hope for caregivers who are struggling and going through tough times and wondering if they're in caregiver prison with no possibility of parole, and will it ever end? And did you ever feel like that, Linda?
Well, the sad thing and the sad truth about being a caregiver is that your freedom only comes through the death of your loved one. I mean, talk about bittersweet.
Yeah, bittersweet.
Yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking, and you almost feel guilty, that I'm free now, but my precious husband had to die, for me to be free. So it's absolutely heart-wrenching when you think about that.
It
but
is. How do you deal with the guilt?
Well, it's like he's there 1 minute, and anyone who's lost a spouse knows. I mean, he's there 1 minute and then he's gone, and there is this emptiness and this, like, you're standing. I'm sorry, you're standing in the doorway, going, "What do I do now? What do I do now?" And to make matters worse, my health had started going down, and I had he passed away in April, and by November 1st, or the first part of November, I'm in surgery, having over half my colon removed, and before that, diagnosed with 2 brain tumors. So I'm,
Wow.
yeah. So it's like, okay, I got to start paying more attention to me. I tried to always eat healthy and take care of myself while I was taking care of David. But anybody who knows, who's a full-time caregiver, you're on the back burner, and you really, really have to strive and take care of yourself. And it's so easy to put everything else and everybody else first. But just like you talked about on an airplane, you got to take care of you before you can take care of everybody else. But my health had gone down. So surgery, and then 8 weeks to recuperate, and then what was left of my colon became inflamed and infected, and that was a few months of really bad. As a matter of fact, my son became my caregiver at that point for those couple of months. So, I woke up one morning and I'm thinking, well, number one of these tumors, I am told by my doctor, can make me go blind at any moment. So if it starts to grow, I will go. He said, you'll see tunnel vision, and then everything will be black, and then that's it. There is no surgery or nothing that you can do that's going to stop that. And so I, of course, hand that over to God. The other brain tumor is, both of them are too dangerous for surgery. The other one is, if it begins to grow, it can puncture the lining, and all of the fluid in my brain will leak out, and I will die. So the funny thing is, why does it take something like that to make you say, wait a minute, what am I doing? I want to start living. I want to do all the things I've always wanted to do. And so
your bucket list, you mean?
That's what I was about to say.
How many things are on your bucket list?
Starting on my bucket list. Well, number one was to go to South Padre Island. I mean, this has been on my bucket list for decades. To go back to South Padre Island, where I lived for a while in the 80s, and volunteer at the sea turtle hospital there. And I actually did that last year. This time last year, I was on South Padre Island for 3 months volunteering at the Sea Turtle Hospital. And it was absolutely amazing. And I drove all the way down there. And I took my time. I drove to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had hotels, booked all the way down. And it was an amazing journey. And so when I left there last December, I did the same thing, except I traveled more in Texas. And I visited some wonderful places, and even went to see the silos in Waco, Chip and Joanna's silos. So I couldn't leave Texas without that. And then I came back to the upstate of South Carolina, spent a month. And then I came down here to North Myrtle Beach and stayed until the end of March. And that's when COVID-19 was ramping up. As a matter of fact, they were sending everybody that wasn't a permanent resident away, So I went back to the upstate. And as a matter of fact, before I started my travels, I gave our home to our son. And I gave a condo on Lake Hartwell. I gave it to our son, and then began traveling. And so then when I went back up to the upstate, I stayed at Lake Jocassee, which we've always loved Lake Jocassee. And I spent the summer up there, and now I am back down here in North Myrtle Beach. And I did go back to South Padre Island for a month during the summer. And but yeah, I think my traveling days, I think as I joked about, I'm ready to put some roots in the sand. So I'm going to stay here in North Myrtle Beach and just do, short trips and stuff like that to explore.
So what advice would you give other caregivers who find themselves suddenly in your position where you says, now what do I do?
Yeah, to not, once the shock, is over, start making your list of all the things you wanted to do.
Even if you feel guilty?
Yeah, well, that guilt is like something that we have to get over, because we did, like in my, to me, I did everything I could to make every single day of David's life wonderful. And all the things that I could come up with, and anything that I knew that would brighten his day, that was what I did. My life was to serve him and our son, Trammell, and to bring joy and happiness, any way that I could. And so when I look back, I did everything that I could, and it was God, who took him. So that was, and it's God's plan, and God's plan is always the right plan.
That's right.
We may not understand it, but all we have to do is trust him. On Christmas morning, 2006, he took my husband, but on April the 9th, 2018, he took my baby boy. I had become David's mother, and I mourned as a mom.
Wow.
So, but, we have to straighten ourselves back up and look around and say, okay, God, what plans do you have for me now? And when I wake up in the mornings, of course, I have Bible study and prayer time every day, and I give the day to God. What is it that you want me to do?
Yeah.
I'm the one that's left here, from this couple that was joined, and I'm the one that's left. So I have a purpose. My purpose for all those years was to take care of my husband, my family. My purpose now is everything or anything that God has planned for me. And that's the most important thing. That's how you get through everything. That's how you get through caregiving. That's how you get through life. And that's what all you have to do is look toward him and ask him to take absolute full control over every situation in your life, and he will literally map it out. And I've got chills all over me.
You're living proof, and so am I.
Every day. Yeah.
I don't know how people
Amen.
do it. I don't know how
Amen.
people do it without God. I really don't.
I cannot imagine.
So I can't believe how fast time has flown. We were out of time.
I know.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and for
You are so welcome.
giving opportunities for people to hear your story and being challenged to maybe bring God in their life.
Amen.
It's not that difficult, is it? I mean, all you have to do is just ask them to help you. There's anyone who knocks, he'll open the door, and it's as simple as that, right?
Amen. Amen. And I've seen it so many times.
All right. Well, thank you again, Linda. And if anybody wants to talk to you some more, or something you said really struck with them, how can they contact you, email or whatever?
thebycefamily@gmail.com.
Awesome. Again, thank you for coming on. It's just a reminder, go to caregiverdave.com, and we've got 3 free gifts waiting for you. All you got to do is go there and introduce yourself, and we'll send them off to you, and they will help you be a better caregiver. We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.